An entire world is ready for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness.
Mastering the science of mindfulness.
And the art of coaching.
To help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life.
Through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. Today, I want to introduce a friend of mine, an industry veteran, master trainer, content creator, author of several books, show off, of numerous articles, and he's the host of All About Fitness podcast. Welcome, my friend and colleague, Pete McCall. What's up, Pete?
Well, thank you, Rick. That was great. But the thing is, for your announcement, you won the award, but they left the lead. They dropped the lead. You're now the personal trainer of the year for IDEA. So that was such a cool thing to see at the last year. For listeners, Rick was acknowledged as the 2021 or 2022 personal trainer of the year. I'm not sure how IDEA. It was 2022 personal trainer of the year at the recent IDEA World Convention. So that's honestly, congratulations, man. That's a huge accomplishment. And it's so cool going back that we've known each other a little bit of time.
It's been a long time. So I've been in the fitness industry. So I started in 2002, February of 2002. And I think that you've got me by a few years from when you started in the fitness industry.
I actually did. Yeah. When I first earned my first certification, and actually I kind of did something backwards. I started in management, then I went to training, because as a manager, I knew I got a salary, and ultimately I wanted to become a full-time personal trainer. So I used the manager's salary to stock up my business as a personal trainer and also learn how to teach group fitness classes. So I did that backwards. Brilliant. But my career started when the years had a 1 and a 9 in it. So I started working full-time in the industry in 1998. So that's how long back. So for people out there listening, yes, we did have gyms when the years had a 1 and a 9, and they did look completely different. And that's one thing that I point out, though, when I work with young professionals. And the thing I do now, actually, Rick, that's not on there, and thank you for showing that, is I'm the director of education for EOS Fitness. And EOS has really been a fun job, Rick. And when I do it sometimes I think back to when we were personal trainers back working the floor, because it really is. It's kind of hard. It's getting back into that passion I had for being on the floor and just feeling the energy of the fitness floor throughout the day.
Yeah. So we actually know each other, guys, because we were personal trainers. We worked for a company. The parent company was TSI, and we would teach these exercise science and sometimes business courses for all the new personal trainers that were coming into the company. So at the time they had something like 130 clubs, maybe more. And you were in Washington, D.C., and you were also in Boston. So I think you kind of switched different areas. I'd stayed in New York the entire time.
Well, when I was in Washington, I was with TSI. That was our former company. You're in New York Sports Clubs. I was in Washington Sports Clubs. And I used to bounce between Washington, Philadelphia, and New York. And then when I moved up to Boston is when I took the job as director of education for a company called Millennium Partners. Millennium Partners had bought a chain of health clubs called the Sports Club LA. Equinox bought those about a decade ago. So I managed, it was funny, Rick, because I was a director of education. We had clubs in 4 seasons in Ritz-Carlton hotels. Now my health club, we're my health club now, EOS, we are high value, low price. So we're in a slightly different business model. So 15 years ago, I was working for a health club company where we had Bentleys parked out front. Now I'm working for a health club company where we're in the same mini malls, like a Subway sandwich shop, a wig store, and auto parts stores. But here's what I love about that, Rick. Here's what I absolutely love about that is when I was working in Boston for the Sports Club LA, it bothered me that I was working for a company that was so elitist, that had the membership was about $200 a month. And this was 15 years ago. And what I really like about EOS Fitness is our memberships are about $20-something a month. So we are making fitness more affordable. And that to me, but that's been one of the big things that's changed throughout our career, Rick, is when we look at what we've done over the last 20 years, is there are so many different ways to do fitness than there were 20 years ago.
Yeah, life, the way it is all changed. That's for sure. The different kind of sector, and like different sectors, but like different populations, right? So, and I agree with that. There's a lot to be said for the people that are charging the high prices. But then when you can shift over and say, how accessible can we make fitness? I think there's a lot of value in that. And that's where you see these gyms that are popping up that can affect really a lot more people by charging lower prices, and then they make their money off of volume. I'm all about it. I think that there's something out there for everyone, and you just got to find your tribe and how you fit in and what works for you.
Well, the real exciting part, though, is I think the real exciting part is we're now at the point of we are starting to recognize that exercise isn't just about vanity. Exercise isn't just about appearance. And now, Rick, you and I have known for years. And as educators, you and I have preached this for years. But it's now, I don't know what the outside market forces are. And frankly, I don't care because we're getting there. But I think we're now at the point where exercise isn't so much about the six-pack abs. Exercise isn't as much about having the perfect body. I think we're now at the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I'd be interested in what you see, Rick, but I think we're at the point of where we're starting to recognize that exercise really is an important component of wellness and an important just component of having a healthy life overall. Do you think do you feel a sense that we've turned that corner as well? Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I wonder about that. So as you were talking about it, I was like, do we see it that way because we're now 20 years later? Because for young people coming into it, they're working out, they want the thighs, they want the guns, they want the glutes, they want the abs. And really that kind of goes back to something you said earlier, which is I don't care how you get there. So if you're working out and you're getting healthier, your goal is vanity. Just the happy byproduct is that you're doing things better for your overall health and wellness. So I'm happy about that. But I do think that one is because of our age, and we're starting to now focus on wellness. We're starting to really look at health as we're starting to age. But then I think the industry, I think you're right. There's a lot more information within the industry that is guiding attention towards working with special populations, working within the realm of wellness. Like NASM just launched their wellness coaching course that is a valuable part of what we can do within the industry that we're in. So I think that some of it's age related, but I think also the industry is gearing up towards not just focusing on, biceps, but paying attention to what's going on in the overall wellness of things.
Well, I love the way you say that, Rick, because actually one of the things, and I don't know if this is why NASM reached out to me for us to have this conversation, because one of the things that I'm actually speaking with the organization about as the director of education for a health club company is looking at how do we leverage what NASM has been doing with education. Because looking at it from my point of view, Rick, looking at it from my seat, my responsibility is I have more than 800 personal trainers. I look at it as I'm the strength coach. The personal trainers are the athletes. Their individual managers, their club managers are like their position coaches and their head coaches, right? Telling them how to run the plays. My job as director of education is to give my trainers, quote unquote, my trainers, give my teammates the ability to go out there and be successful on the field. In this case, the field being the gym floor. So that's really what I enjoy about my position. And so what I've been doing, Rick, is I've been looking at different education resources, is I've actually been starting to lean really heavy on NASM because NASM has a lot of the solutions that I'm looking for our personal trainers.
That's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pete McCall. Pete McCall is with us, and he is a master trainer. He has been in the industry for a while, and he and I were colleagues for a long time. I also want to shout this out because you were colleagues for a long time with one of my favorite people in the fitness industry, Fabio Camana. So what was that like?
Well, no, I'm lucky, man. I mean, look, we are held by, what's the phrase? I'm gonna mess it up here. Maybe you can correct me, Rick. But you look around at who you surround yourself with, and I've been extremely lucky to have been working with people like yourself, to have been working with people like Fabio. And Fabio is somebody that I worked with at a different organization. And here's the thing: we connected via rugby. And for people that may or may not have played rugby, rugby is probably one of the best fraternity sports in the world. Meaning, I can go to any, and I've been in a number of different countries around the world. I was in Shanghai, Rick. In 2014, I was in Shanghai after doing the Nike Super Show, and I was leaving the next day on a flight. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do at night? And it was during the Six Nations rugby tournament. Well, I found a pub that was showing the Six Nations tournament, and next thing I know, I'm there till 4 a.m. watching rugby with a bunch of guys from Scotland and a bunch of guys from Ireland. Well, it was just the way the time zones, because China's ahead of the UK, of the Commonwealth countries. But being internationally, I was able to connect via rugby. So that's how Fabio and I connected. Fabio played elite level rugby. I played elite level rugby. And obviously you need a little bit of fitness to be decent on the rugby pitch. And working with Fabio really is, for people that have not taken a course with Fabio or done any education with Fabio, he really, Rick, is one of the smartest people in the industry. He blows me away by his recall, his application. I mean, what do you think? You probably have conversations with him. What's your reaction when you speak with Mr. Kawana?
He's the guy that if I'm at a conference, because that's usually where I see him, even though we're both employees of NASM, I don't see him unless I go to conferences. But he's the guy that if he's at a conference, like he and Dr. Lynn Kravitz, like those are people that if they're at a conference speaking, then I try to open my schedule up so I can go and listen to them talk. Like those are the brain. It's not just their brains, it's their ability to communicate the information. So they're really smart people, but these people are really smart, and how they relay content is so accessible. It's generally very enjoyable. And I'm in awe of people that have brains that big, but then also have the ability to relate it that well to people.
Well, but the names you just mentioned, Rick, I think it's interesting when you look at the names you mentioned, Len Kravitz and Fabio Camana. They're both professors. I mean, they both teach at college. So every year, how many people do they have in front of them? That hopefully they are good at engaging and explaining exercise science, right? And doing it in an engaging way, because that is their job. But I say that for listeners, because if you go see Len Kravitz at a conference, you go see Fabio give a lecture, be prepared to take notes like you're in a college lecture, because that's what you're stepping into. They're going to be giving you like an 80 to 90 minute lecture at the college level about whatever topic they're talking about.
Yeah. And it's worth it. Even if some of it goes over the head, which for me still, I'm like, what? but it is so fun to be a part of that, and to, sit at the feet of the masters and listen to them talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about just fitness stuff. Can we talk just for a few minutes about fitnessy things like resistance training, cardiorespiratory training, and maybe even flexibility thing? I mean, I'm talking like this is big picture stuff.
Well, let's dial that down a little bit, because you said earlier, and you're very gracious in it, that I've been writing books. And what you don't know, Rick, is I just finished my third book on recovery from exercise. So it's now all the chapters are done. Now I'm going to be going through editing and revisions, but I'm going through deep, and it took me a little bit longer than I thought, because for listeners, recovery isn't just resting after you work out, right? It's not. There are multiple layers, right, of recovery. Rick, how do you describe recovery? I know you have a lot of experience in that area, but how do you describe the benefits of what we should be doing after the workout?
I think the best way that I generally describe recovery is getting back to where you were before you needed recovery. So what's your homeostasis? Can we get to a place where we were feeling good, and then we worked out, and now our ability to produce and to how we feel, our ability to, I don't know, reduce forces, our ability to not ache so much, the sore muscles. Where's regeneration and recovery? And that's really getting back to where we were before we engaged in this bout of physical activity.
But you're so right about that, Rick. And I think that's what so many people, and I've been going down the recovery path for a number of years, and we've talked about this offline a number of times. And because a number of years ago, I saw the benefits of high intensity exercise. Not only see, but you read the research on the benefits of high intensity exercise. But we have to understand that, yes, high intensity exercise is good, but it disrupts homeostasis. And we have to help the body get back to homeostasis in order to help the body recover and adapt to exercise. So it's not just enough to plan the workout, but we have to be thinking about what clients are doing after the workout that's so critical. I mean, isn't it? Because Rick, I think it's about if you and I get done with the workout and you're my client, I got to tell you, hey, Rick, this is what you should be doing. This the hydration you should have. This is when you should be eating food to refuel. This is when the amount of sleep you should be trying to get tonight to totally recharge your batteries. Because this ties into the strength training, the cardio training, the mobility training. It all builds around structure and recovery. I mean, that's the other thing that's changed, Rick, about during our time of our career is we might call it a more holistic view of programming, but we now understand, and then maybe it's because of the length of experience we have, we now understand we can't just give somebody a workout, but we have to tell them what to do afterwards to make it in order so it have the greatest effect.
Yeah, it reminds me, I have a friend of mine named Jordan. And when Jordan would finish training somebody and they'd start to walk out the door, my friend Jordan would go, "Remember, now is when the workout really begins." And that was after the workout was over. So I knew what he was saying, though. I knew what he was saying is that the benefits of that workout start after the workout is complete. The benefits come from the recovery. The benefits come when you deplete your sources and then you build them back up, and they build up stronger, because that's kind of the goal, right? We take the system down and we come back a little bit stronger than we were before. We come back a little bit
actually, Rick, I'd never thought about that before, but I'm sorry to cut in on you, but I like that because what we are doing, I mean, think about a computer network, right? In order to make a computer network stronger, what do you need to do? You need to take it offline. You need to switch out the routers. I don't know computer networks that well,
right.
But if
that sounded all made up, but it sounded good.
This sounds like it should be happening. But with a computer network, right? You might take the network offline, replace the routers, replace the heavy pieces. But then when you bring the computer network back online, you now have a faster, more powerful network. That, in essence, is exactly what we do to the muscles. And this, for you listening out there, this is why recovery is so important. You can't just have a great workout and be like, okay, yeah, go on about your day. We are damaging and stressing muscles in the body. It's what we do after that period that really has a significant impact on whether or not that stress has an effect. I mean, how do you start hearing that more from Rick? Do you start hearing people talk about recovery or ask about what they should be doing after the workout more?
A lot more. I think that people are very interested in recovery now, when it wasn't really a big deal before. We talked about this before as well. You and I together. I've talked about it on the show before. Like, the lack of sleep used to be a badge of honor, where people were like, "Oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep, and I'm back to work, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm here." And now people are like, I'm only 4 hours of sleep, and everybody are like, "Whoa, you should really try to get more."
Did they go like, "What's your Whoop score? Like, what's your what's your HRV?" I mean, we now understand. But that's the thing. Now it's not like, "I only got 4 hours of sleep last night." Now it's like, "Oh, I got 7.5 hours of sleep, and my Whoop score is whatever." So there is a much greater awareness. And the thing is, we are now tying in that awareness to performance, right?
Yeah.
I think Brandon Marcello, who talks about recovery, said this: if you and I Rick, if you and I are athletes on the same team, say you and I are both cornerbacks playing for the New York Jets. Why do we want to do that to ourselves? I don't know. But say we both got contracts to play for the New York Jets as cornerbacks. You and I could be doing the same workouts. We could be doing the same practices. But if I'm only sleeping 6 hours a night and you're sleeping 8 hours a night, you're probably going to be playing much better on the field on Sundays than I am, just because you have more sleep and you have more chance for your tissues and everything to become stronger while you sleep. Have you heard that before? Have you heard of that kind of statistic?
Yeah, and I want to speak to it in a different way. So I have a buddy of mine that does a lot of work with NBA athletes, and he says, I can get their ankle moving better. I can get their low back and an SI joint and all this stuff. He was like, orthopedically, I can get them in a good place. But the problem is these guys are 19 years old, 20, 22, 23 years old. They're young generally, and they stay up all night playing Xbox. And they have a hard time getting to sleep and a hard time shaking some of these feelings. So when we talk about recovery, for some people, they get really good recovery in some ways, Pete, but not in other ways. And so I think it's good to show that there's a spectrum of recovery and that you can go after the things that you can tick off the list, right? And then some things for some people are just harder to make happen. And that's something that we want to support, not guilt, not, you only got 4 hours. What's up with that? Nothing like that. It's just, how can we support people to help them try to identify where those trouble spots are in their recovery?
But that's where doing stuff like that's where as personal trainers go through their career, doing stuff like taking education on behavior change. Because if I do the behavior change specialist, Rick, then I know how to coach you on, can you add this to your, can you add 10 minutes of this at home? Can we add this? How does that feel? Do you feel that makes a difference? Next thing you know, you're doing 10 to 15 minutes of using the hypervolt before you go to bed every night. That's the type, but because we coach the behavior change process, we coach you through that behavior change process, you now are incorporating that into your system. But I point that out because that's not something that would have occurred to me as a trainer in my first 2 or 3 years of my career, how that all comes together. But now understanding it, it's like, okay, if I understand, if I want to really engage my clients, whether it's a strength workout or a cardio workout, or even help them to become more mobile, more flexible, I first need to know how to coach behavior change. I first need to know how to engage them. I first need to know how to help them move towards healthier habits, right? Because this is right. Isn't that something that we overlook? We don't think of when we're young. When we're young, it's like, hey, I love to exercise. You must love exercise. Let's go exercise. Right? We don't think about all those other things. It's not just exercise.
Yeah. People come in with their own stories, right? There are no clean slates at this point. So when we work with people, they've had some experience, some good, some bad, around different types of exercise. So they may have good experiences around cardio, but bad experience around resistance training. They may have good experiences around group fitness, bad experiences around one-on-one personal training. They may have good experiences when it comes to different modalities, but a bad experience when it comes to others. So we have to learn from them what works. And then I think where we lose track sometimes, Pete, is that we don't ask them what they can do, what they like to do, where are you coming from? And we have to understand where they're coming from before we can create any direction on where to go because of those experiences. And if I take somebody's experience and it's a bad experience, and then I start to deliver a similar thing that they already don't like, then now they dislike me and they don't trust me because I'm just another one of those people. I'm another one of those trainers that don't listen. Another one of those trainers that like you said, I don't know what we're talking about, but I like this, so you'll like it too. So
it's funny you say that because
you go from there.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about one of the personal trainers that you know how these guys are in the gyms. I love going into this one gym. I love going into our Oceanside gym, because I know I'm going to see Roger there, and Roger always has a smile on his face. Now he's a little bit older. He's about our, and I say older, meaning he's about our age. I think he's early mid 50s. So whatever his age is, but what he's been around the block enough, but he's professional enough. When I was talking to him one time, Rick, what he said, he's like, I take the time to get to know my clients, and I listen to what they're telling me. because I was asking him like, what's your process? How do you do this? And he goes, man, it's nothing hard. I listen to my clients and I take the time to apply what they're telling me. And it's because I think, and I say that the reason why I gave his age is I think sometimes, because I made this mistake a lot when I was younger. It's like, I know exercise, let me make you exercise. When a lot of times with our clients, it's not the exercise, it's the human connection. It's establishing that human connection. It's having somebody that's going to listen to me. It's having somebody that's going to validate me. It's having somebody tell me that, you know what, Rick, it's going to be okay today, right? It's going to be okay. Your back might hurt a little bit. Your shoulder might hurt a little bit, but you know what? I can help you move and it's going to be okay. And I think that's one of the benefits. I'm going to say this up front. That's one of the benefits about those of us, not who've been in the industry for a number of years, but who have a few more years of living experience, is we know how to slow down and make that connection in real life and not just jump right into something, right? I didn't even think about that, but that is because we know how to, let's make a connection. And then, right? Because if you think about everything we've done in this modern era, we usually just jump right in. We hit the app, we go. We hit the app, we go. And we have to remember, when we're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with people in a gym environment, we're dealing with somebody in a very vulnerable emotional state. So sometimes we need to invest the time connecting with them first before we ask them to do any activity.
I love that. Let me ask a question when it comes to this, because I know that you are a big fan, as you've already mentioned, of the high intensity interval training. You've written a book on it called Ageless Intensity. My question to you is, how do you get some people that, and maybe even an older population, to get a buy-in to go into doing higher intensity exercises when that may not be something they've ever considered before?
And Rick, that's exactly why I wrote the book, right? It is because we've always been told that as we get older, we shouldn't exercise that hard. Well, you and I, Rick, we've grown up in like the first generation who's grown up with fitness. People between the ages of 50 and 60 right now. I just turned 50. So people between the ages of 50 and maybe in their early 60s, this is the first generation who has literally grown up exercising throughout their entire lifespan. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's a lot we don't know about how exercise affects the aging process. Because I don't know if you remember this 20 years ago, Rick, when we first started training, it was like, do the max heart rate formula, do the Carbohydrate formula. Okay, don't let their heart rate get up near this. And I would do that. And I'd have people in their 50s go, I feel fine. I can be at 155 beats a minute and I feel fine. And I'm sitting there, but this says you're going to die. This says this is the max heart rate formula.
I know.
But that's when it occurred to me that what we know about exercise and aging is incomplete because we just don't have the data sets. So we can look in the gym. I just worked out. I mean, we're recording this. It's a little bit before 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And I worked out. I was at 24-Hour Fitness just across the street from my apartment. I'm pointing like you can see the 24-Hour Fitness from my place. But I was at the 24-Hour Fitness. And the thing is, when you go in there this time of morning in my area, it's mostly people over the age of 50. And what exercise does as we age, and especially high intensity exercise does, is there's something called mechanotransduction. Mechanotransduction means mechanical force creates chemical change. So I'll say that again. Mechanotransduction means mechanical force creates chemical change. So Rick, every time that you and I are lifting weights, every time that we're doing exercise, that mechanical force into our body is stimulating satellite cells. It's stimulating certain hormones, and that's creating new tissue production, right? High intensity exercise is more effective than low to moderate intensity exercise doing that. And here's another thing is high intensity exercise uses carbohydrate metabolism. Rick, if you and I are doing a strength training workout or we're doing a HIIT workout, we're going to be metabolizing carbohydrate primarily without oxygen. That uses different enzymes, that uses different hormones, and that helps our body be more efficient at metabolizing energy. That's critical as we get into our 60s and 70s, right? Because even if we exercise, even if we walk and do yoga and do lower intensity exercise, the lower intensity exercise is aerobic metabolism. That's primarily fat lipolysis, fatty acid metabolism, right? At lower intensity. Like right now, Rick, you and I are talking, this is fatty acid oxidation. But if we want to become much more efficient at converting carbohydrate to fuel, we need to go high intensity. And that also produces growth hormone, that produces testosterone, that produces BDNF. Low or moderate intensity exercises just does not have the same response in the body. So all that to say, I know it's a long way to get there, but as we get old, don't be afraid of picking up a heavy weight. Don't be afraid of getting out of breath, because we need to stimulate the system. We need to stimulate all the systems in our body.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pete McCall. He is an industry veteran, a master trainer, and the host of the All About Fitness podcast. It's a very good podcast, by the way, so I recommend that. Check out Pete McCall there. And then also, Pete's written several books. He's talked about two of them. He's got one on recovery that he's wrapping up. Congratulations on that. It hasn't been sent to press yet, but he's got another one on high intensity interval training. I think it's called Ageless Intensity. Is that right?
Ageless Intensity. And then my first one is Smarter Workouts. Smarter Workouts, I go through the science of how to design exercise programs. Ageless Intensity is the science. Ageless Intensity here. Yeah, it's funny how I have them right here by the camera. It's funny how that works. But yeah. Ageless Intensity really, because I think the story needs to be told, Rick, that as we get older, it is not that every workout needs to be high intensity, but as we age, 2 or 3 workouts a week should make us sweaty. It should make us out of breath as we get into our 50s and 60s. So tell you what, I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago. I'll be the test case. So I'll let you guys, I'll keep doing this, and I'll let you guys know. And just on that note, I'm down at below 200 pounds for the first time in a while. I let myself, I never really focused on, what's funny, Rick, is I've never really focused on my appearance before. I've always trained just to be fit, trained to be healthy. And I never really cared about, I didn't, but I have to tell you, man, I don't know if you remember being in our late 20s, early 30s, when all those corporate people would come into the gym, and I'd look at them and they go, like, oh, they got a little belly. So now that I'm one of those corporate people, now that I'm one of those senior people, gray haired people walking into the gym, and I know I'm going to have a bunch of 20-something personal trainers looking at me, I cannot tell you how motivating that is. So when I was turning 50 this year, my goal was to be back down below what I weighed at 25. So between having to walk into a gym full of 25-year-old personal trainers and turning 50, my goal this summer was to get that back down below 200. And the cool thing was I was able to hit that.
Oh, very nice, man. Adding in some of those high intensity interval training workouts you were talking about.
No, of course. But that's the fun thing, right? Is we teach this stuff. And don't you do that every now and then? Don't you put yourself through like a little training program? Just like, I teach this, I might as well see if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the other day, my business partner and I, we were like, all right, pull the rowers out. We're going to do 10 sets of 10, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off on the rower, the Concept 2. And, my goal was to hit like 140 meters. I think his was to hit 160 or 165, something like that. I mean, he's better at it than I am. And he's a bigger, more muscular person. So he gets a lot more meters out of every push off of that. But 10 sets of 10. You know what I love about it? It's over in 10 minutes.
That, what the funny thing, I don't want to say the funny thing, but that is some of the research that people have shown on HIIT training and high intensity training. It's like, it was hard, but I know it's only going to be 10, 12, 15 minutes. I know I can do it for 10, 12, 15 minutes. And that's really where, as we get older, just have that mindset. Don't give up. Don't stop.
Yeah. And I've done them before too, Pete, where I get into start getting into the intervals and I'm like, all right, let me go 15 rounds. Let me do 20 rounds. And at some point I was like, I hate this, right? Like I hate it, like 15 rounds or 20 rounds. And it was miserable. And I was like, just do 10 rounds, do 10 rounds. I mean, it's not fun while you're doing it, but there's a sense of pride when it's over that you push yourself that hard. And then it's not to the point where I just make myself miserable by doing, high number of really high intensity intervals.
Rick, to that point, one of the things that I've evolved as I've gotten, I don't know if the term is older, more mature, or wiser, but just as I've gained more experience, that is the one thing that and I really want to share this with the fitness pros out there, is you don't need to go hard all the time with exercise. You really don't. I mean, it's like yes, high intensity exercise is good. I've written books on it. I lecture on it. But the fact of the matter is sometimes just moving, Rick, I don't know about you, but there are days when just going out for a 45-minute walk is absolutely the best exercise I need for that day, right? There are days where I love it, where I'm going to go do a hard 20-minute kettlebell workout. But there are also days where it's like, you know what, I'm going to go get warmed up in the gym and my body's going to go, you know what, today's not the day. And then I'm going to ramp it down. I'm going to make it a mobility workout. And I might, but I think the important thing is exercise fitness is a long-term thing. And we don't always need to go all out, and we don't need to work to a point of being in pain in order to have an effect, in order to make it work for us.
100% true. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete McCall here with me. And I want to say, Pete, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. As always, having a conversation with you fills my cup. So I appreciate that. Can you let the people know where they can find you, social media, websites, the books, all that stuff?
Well, yeah, thank you. And this is always, Rick, this is always fun. And one of the things I want to talk about before I get out of here is really what we're doing with EOS Fitness, because we're doing some cool stuff. This is really the place I would have wanted to train. What I'm trying to do is I want to try to make it the place where I would have wanted to be a personal trainer back in my late 20s, early 30s. And they're giving me the license to do some really cool stuff. So for folks out there, if you're looking for a little change in your career, check out EOS Fitness. But All About Fitness podcast, that's if you're watching on video, I put that on hiatus, but I'm getting ready to relaunch that and get more guests out there. I have Ageless Intensity, Smarter Workouts. You can find those anywhere books are sold. But folks, the main thing is I just try to put out content. I support NASM quite a bit because I think NASM does great stuff, Rick. I mean that. I think the organization puts out great content. As a director of education, you make my job easier, and you allow me to hopefully upskill and educate my personal trainers so we can go out there and make the world a little bit healthier place.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Can you let people know where they can find you on social as we start to close this out?
Oh yeah, all about fitness, All About Fitness podcast on Instagram. So I do post. Hey, I posted my first workout video for the first time in a while the other day. But that's been one of the nice things about taking a corporate job is like, hey, I don't need to show my butt on social media as much anymore. But yeah, All About Fitness podcast on social media. But yeah, I'm an old corporate guy now, so I'm doing less and less of the exercise videos and more. I'm kind of just more life videos right now. But yeah, no,
gotcha. And the best place for people, if they want to find your books, where's the best place for them to get those?
Amazon. Yeah. Amazon's the best place. All is smarter workouts and Ageless Intensity. Amazon's probably the best resource for that.
Fantastic. Pete, again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. It's always great to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so on Instagram at dr.rickricchey, or you can hit me up on the email, rick.richey@nasm.org. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks so much for being here. This has been the NASM-CPT Podcast.